Hello, everyone, and welcome to the seventh episode of the Keyknob modeling in Alias series. This episode, we are going to model the actual buttons in the holes that we've created before. Your model, if you follow this, should look something like this. And we now intend to create the actual buttons and fill those holes. What we want to do is to create a tiny little gap in between the frame and the actual button so that we can clearly see that those are two different parts. And in order to do so, we are going to use the curves that we've created earlier. So I'm going to put us in the top view, pressing F5, like so. Turn off the canvas and also bring on the curves that we have. I can turn off the frame to begin with. These are the outlines that we use to create the frame, and we want to offset them slightly inwards in order to obtain that gap we want. And to do so, we are going to use a tool under curves called curve and curved surface offset. So we click the option box here and set the offset distance to just a tiny little bit. I've tried it with 0.2, which seems to work fine. And we click on all the curves and make sure they offset in the correct direction. This is clearly not correct, so we need to put a minus sign there. And then we go on and click on the other, and now it flipped again. Look at that. Okay. Playing games with me, are you? So get rid of the minus sign and also get that little radius. We are going to delete those in a later stage, but let's do it for now. And if we bring on the surfaces again, or the frame again, and have a look, we can see now that our offset curve has a tiny little distance to the frame surfaces. This way it becomes clearer or that way. So this will probably and hopefully create our gap. Let's do it again on the curves down here. So curves, curve and curve surface offset. Select on all the curves. We'll worry about that sign later. Off the box there, change the sign to minus, and there we go. So now we have two nice curves to work with when creating the side surfaces of the buttons. Let me turn off the other curves, and what I want to do now is to create these with sharp corners to begin with, and then I'll round off the surfaces rather than the curves. So let's go pick curve, that one, that one, that one, and that one, to delete those. I now want to stretch these curves so that they intersect, and then I can trim them. So I go with middle button on my marking menu, extend merge, click on the curve and stretch that curve slightly outwards using this one. Same here. Same here. Also here. Here. Now we can trim these to a sharp corner. We go curve, curve edit, sorry, curve section. Click on the curve we want to trim, and then the curve we want to trim it to, like so. And do it over again on the curve we want to trim, and the curve we want to trim to. And again on the other one. And finally, this one. Let's just check that it did in fact trim it on the other side. Yes, it did, because it's part of the same. Also, let's check that we got the right one. So we can bring on the frame again. Yeah, looks good. And if we go to the perspective view using F8, I now want to extrude these curves right in the Z direction upwards. And to do that, I'm going to need a line in the Z direction as well. So I go curves, new curve, new CV curve. I snap it onto this curve right here and slide it to the corner. And then I use my right mouse button to place a second CV point straight up. That gives me a line in the Z direction, like so. We can now use the tool surfaces, swept surfaces, and extrude. And with that, click on the curves we want to extrude, and then go, and click on the direction and height. Now, the nice thing about this is that by modifying one single CV point, which is my second point on that line I created, I can actually update the entire surface. So if I move that down and let go of the mouse button, the surfaces I created with extrude will update. And that can come in handy when we want to place our buttons height-wise in this model. So that's the first part. Looks like this now. We could probably trim the surfaces out. Okay. So let's bring these into a different layer, our default layer or working layer. And then we can turn off the other surfaces. Okay, that's the first part, the side surfaces. Now we want to create a little trickier surface. If we bring on the canvas and have a look at it, it appears to me that these buttons have a spherical common surface that they share. So I'm going to try to make a big sphere and trim it and see if it resembles what we see here in the sketch. And to do so, I'm going to turn the canvas off. I simply go surfaces, primitives, and sphere. Place it in Origo 0, 0, 0, and enter. That gives me a rather large sphere, something like that. Now I want to move this so it barely touches this edge here, but still intersect these surfaces. So I'm going to look at it from a side view using this little cube up here. So I click the back button. Now I look at it straight from the side, and I also turn off the perspective view because that's distorting, and turn it on to an orthographic view like that. So now we have a parallel perspective. Now, if I go move on the sphere and move it straight up using my right mouse button, I want to place the edge of this sphere close to the top of my buttons, something like that. But this is clearly too deep. So I want to increase the radius of my sphere. So I go scale and bring up the size and then move it up again. That's start pretty good. We could probably bring up the size even more. So we go scale, bring it up a tiny bit more, maybe it up. See what that does. So I want to place the edge of the sphere close to the top right here. But I still want my button surfaces to intersect with the sphere. Okay. If we then go out in the perspective again, now I want to intersect the sphere with my button surfaces. Let's do that. So I go intersect the sphere first, and then go with really all of these surfaces. Now I got me a set of curves on the surface that allows me to trim all the surfaces involved here. So let's go trim that one to begin with. Don't need that. And keep that part. We trim that surface, keep that part. Trim this surface, keep that part. And we trim this surface and keep that part, like so. Now we also want to trim the sphere, and I want to make this a separate surface and this a separate surface. And in order to do so, I'm going to use trim divide. So if I hit trim, like so, I go to the underside here and indicate this area and also this area and go divide. What happened then? Well, let's try and pick this surface here. That's one surface. This one here is one surface, and we still have the large sphere up here, and we can actually delete that one because all we want is, it's tricky when you go orthographic, kind of flips in the view. Let's see what we got here. We got us two buttons with a spherical bottom right here. And let's look at that in its surroundings as well. So bring on the frame and shape that up as well. We're not going to worry about the height of these buttons yet. We're going to adjust those in a little while. This looks like a good start. Let's also make sure we do have a gap in between the two. From top view, turn off the perspective. Yeah, you can see that there is a tiny little gap between the button and the frame. And we don't need to worry about the sharp corner here. We're going to fix that in a bit. Okay, that looks good. Time now to chamfer the edges around the buttons. If we look at the canvas image, like so. Turn off the shading. You can see that these buttons they have a chamfered edge like that. And we're going to try to resemble that in our model as well. So we turn off the canvas, turn off the frame, and start working with the tool multi-surface fillet and the options box. Here you can go with either chamfer, a circular radius, a tangent radius, or a curvature continuous radius, and so on. But obviously we are going to use the chamfer here. And we set the tangent length, chordal length, I would say, to 1.5. Let's try that. Let's see if it works. And mark the two surfaces and make sure that arrows point inwards and go build. That gives us a chamfered edge. Let's see if it's enough size-wise. So bring on the canvas, go to the top view, F5, and have a look. It's a little small, isn't it? So I want to increase the distance between these two edges. So bring that up to maybe 1.7. Or even 1.8. That looks about right. So let's go with that. Press F8 and next. And then I press this surface right here and that one right there. And press build. Now we have a chamfered edge. The only thing left to do is to trim off this surface that's too large right now. That's easy. Let's go with the other edges as well. That one, oops, that one, and the one to the inside. Go build, and next, and that one as well, and go build. I'm going to turn off the canvas image. Let's see what's happening here. So now it appears that we have almost finished our chamfers here. I'm just going to trim off these extensions of the surfaces right here. And I do that by projecting the edge of this chamfer surface here onto this surface right here. I can then trim off the triangle here. So if I go project, and this time I'm going to use normal projection. So it will project this curve in the normal direction, this surface right here. And pick the surface, which is our fillet, almost a chamfer. And then go click on this edge right here. Click on this edge, whichever one that is. This edge right there, and then project. Now I have two curves on the surface that I can use to trim off the triangle. So I go to trim, click on the surface, and the areas I want to keep, and press keep. I didn't want to keep those triangles, did I? So let's do that over and untrim the surface and then trim again. And click on the area I want to keep, which is this one. There we go. Do the same thing on the other button. So I go project, normal, Click the surface, click the two edges, that one for out, go first, and then this edge, that edge, project. I can then trim my surface, indicate the area I want to keep, and press spacebar, like so. So now I have a pretty nice, even chamfer all around the buttons. Only thing left now is to round all of these sharp edges off slightly, and we do that by using the round tool. And we're in fact going to use the box pick option here and see what that does. So I hit surfaces, I go around, set my radius to a tiny little value. And I'm going to go with 0.4, a circular radius, and then simply go box pick and draw a box around all of the surfaces here. Then accept, and it proposes all of the sharp edges it can find here. So I'm going to go build and see what that does. Well, we did something. So let's have a closer look at what we've created here. So pick nothing. And also I want to toggle the model so I can have a closer look at the shaded model. It looks kind of okay, a bit wrinkled here. Let's make it a bit more shiny. That's not very pretty, is it? We have an option to work with the corners in our rounds. So let's do that. Bring back the model, toggle model, like so. And then I'll go Object Edit, Query Edit, click on the round, and you see the little symbols in the corners here. Those are the different options we have when creating all of these corners. So I'm going to walk you through them, turn on auto update, and change that one. See? That did a bit of a smoother transition here between the surfaces. If we click it again, it did nothing, which is not so nice. And this is the first one we have. So I'm going to go with that one over there. Same goes here. And obviously, or probably same on the other side. Yeah. So let's go with that one instead. That looks better. And then pick nothing, toggle model, and look at it, and it looks a lot smoother now. This is absolutely acceptable. So there are our buttons. Only thing remaining now is to place them height-wise into the frame. So let's bring out the frame. Let's see what that does. Total model. We can shade it up. Seems now, well, not too bad. I probably want this edge right here to lay flush with our frame. So I'm going to bring the buttons down slightly, and in order to do so, I'm going to temporarily turn off the frame layer, pick the surfaces, and go move, and then turn on the frame again so I can see what I'm doing here. Look at it from the side view and bring it down. Now it has construction history, but we don't need to worry about that, so I'll press yes. And now I can move my buttons up and down here, and I want to bring them down to something like that, I think, so that this chamfer ends at the top of the surface. Now, this is a matter of interpretation, since we don't have a side view of the sketch. We only have that top image to look at. I'm going to bring it down slightly and say that this is good. Let's also bring out the other surfaces and have a look at the whole picture. And shade the whole thing up and toggle the model away and look at it. Well, that looks kind of nice, doesn't it? And we bring out the canvas as well, play around with the transparency here of our shading. We can compare the two. Oh, okay. Oh well. I guess we have to just turn the shading on and off and see if it looks similar, and I think it does. And that concludes this episode, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in the next one, where we will be working on the split line and the final touches of this keyknob. So thank you for listening.